This video is about Notable PDF. It's a PDF annotator that your students can use to type on top of PDFs that you send them. If you don't have it yet on your computer and you want to explore it, you need to go to the Chrome Web Store. Just Google Chrome Web Store. And once there, just search for Notable. And it's called Notable PDF. I have already added it, but if you haven't, you just click the Add to Chrome button and follow the instructions on screen. Hi there. Today I want to share with you an idea of what you can do with those Chromebooks in your classroom. And it's based on an experiment that I did last year in my classroom. Instead of having my students take notes on paper, I had them take the notes on their Chromebooks using something called Notable PDF. It's a lot like Notability on the iPad side, but it works with Google Chromebooks and with Google Drive. So the way I would have students do notes is I would first give them their note packets through Google Classroom. So I'm going to show you how I did that. Notes for today. I'm just creating a brand new assignment in Google Classroom, and I'm going to attach a PDF that's on my computer, or I could grab something out of my drive. I'm going to upload these Nigeria notes. And this is the important thing. You make a copy for each student. That way, every one of my students who signed up in this class is going to get a PDF called Nigeria.2 notes hyphen and then their name. So I'm going to assign that. That's all I have to do as the teacher. I didn't have to walk down to the copy center. I didn't have to submit it by 10 a.m. Now I'm on the student view. I'm using Curious George's account. And I am going to open up Notes for today, the assignment, and his Google Classroom. So here's that name I told you about, Nigeria.2 notes hyphen Curious George. I'm going to open up that PDF, and Google Drive shows me this view, which is a preview. And I'm going to open this with the program Notable PDF. This is what Notable PDF looks like. There's a series of tools over on the right side. So for example, if there's something I'd like to highlight, I can just drag over the text and it highlights it for me. There's strike through tool, underline tool. I haven't found those particularly helpful. It is possible for the students to type text boxes on. So I'm going to click this tool and I'm going to pick green because that's the color of Nigeria. I can change the font size if I like. I go anywhere on the PDF, I click, and I can resize this window. I can drag it around on the screen, and I can get myself a nice title for these notes. The tool that I like the best with Notable PDF, it actually kind of connects and reminds me a lot to what ThingLink does, where you drop those hotspots down. And you use this little speech bubble tool. Once again, you get to pick what color. And I'm going to pick the pink dot. And I go anywhere on my notes and I click and I drop a hotspot. It opens up a little sticky note over here on the side. This is the Niger Delta. This is where Nigeria's oil wealth is. That's what we were talking about during class, and I hear the clatter at the keyboards and the students are getting their notes typed in. Anytime a student hovers over the hotspots, it highlights the note on the side. So if I go and I add another note, Mr. UF said the word rentier was important to remember. Putting all your economic eggs in one basket. So we can have multiple notes over on the side, and as we hover over them, it highlights which one we're currently on. Also, if you hover on the side, it highlights the one in the middle. So let's say it's the next day in class and the students didn't finish up taking notes on that particular topic. So how do they get the notes back? Well, they just go to their Google Classroom folder inside of Drive and they find the class that they were in, and this class was called Sandbox, and they see the Nigeria.2 notes. Notice it looks like it's just a PDF inside of Google Drive, so Curious George clicks on it and opens up the notes, and here we see a blank PDF, and at this point the student is going to get very concerned because they're not going to see all the annotations they made. Here's why. They need to open their notes with Notable PDF, and once we click Notable PDF, it takes the blank PDF and it goes to Notable server and it grabs all of the comments, all of the dots that were added, all of the titles that were added, and it merges the two together and it makes it visible for the student. And everything is back, including all the hotspots. There's the pink hotspot about the Niger Delta, and here's the yellow hotspot about Rentier states. Now, there's a little addition here if you notice, and it looks like John Unruh-Friesen is now commenting on Curious George's notes. How did that happen? Well, what Curious decided to do for his friend John is, John wasn't in class the day that they started the Nigeria notes. Curious decided to share his notes with John. Now John is a collaborator on the same set of notes, and they collaboratively then decided to take notes together on the same PDF. This is an experiment I did in my class. I did a couple units where I said, I'm going to assign you collaborative note partners. Some students absolutely loved it because they saw what other students were adding when we were talking in class. Maybe they learned a thing or two about what good note-taking is. Other students absolutely hated it because there was other students typing things on their notes that they didn't want, and they were the super organized and they liked certain colors for certain things, and it just disrupted their flow. So here's what I'm thinking. Next year, I think I'm going to offer my students the choice of, if you want to take collaborative notes, knock yourselves out. If you want to do them solo, knock yourselves out. I'll differentiate note-taking a little bit in my classroom. And some students really need that little bit of interactivity that might come from these threaded discussions over here. I have just a last couple items here on the Notable PDF tour. One is, if the kids just happen to hit the R key on their keyboard, this is what happens to their notes, and then of course their hand shoots up and they don't know what to do. Here's what to show them. Here are your rotation tools off in this little option menu, and you can just rotate it counterclockwise. By the way, that's just the R key and Shift R to go the other way as a shortcut. Sometimes kids will want to share their notes and they'll click this icon that they're used to seeing on the internet to represent sharing, but this is not where you share notes if you want to do the collaborative note-taking. Instead, you go back over to Google Drive, click on the PDF you want to share, and just click the share button like you would share anything else in Google Drive. This icon here represents Notable PDF, and if you click it, it gives you the power to either drag in any PDF here or to open a PDF from your Google Drive. You can also click the Open button and it brings up that very same window. If you control-click on this icon, notice there's some options. And I would highly recommend unsubscribing from their newsletter. You don't need that email. And also uncheck Automatically Load Files in Notable. What this means is, if that is checked, every single PDF will always open inside of this program. And my guess is, if you're on your Mac, you'd prefer Preview to open up your PDFs, and if you're on a PC, you'd prefer Adobe Reader to open up your PDFs. So uncheck that one and update the settings.